welcome to the FE Bar. I'm your host, Jack Jordan Maynard, and joining me as always is Mr. Jack Pickering. We have a special show lined up for you tonight as former Formula E race director Scot Elkins is with us to answer your questions. So we need your help, so make sure that you get onto Zoom by hitting !Zoom and you can come and ask your questions. So make sure we can't do this show without you, so make sure you do that. Hello boys, how are we? Hello Scott, thank you so much for coming.
Jack and Jack?
Yes, it is indeed. It is indeed. I'm Jack, and then we got Pico, so it's the easiest way that we managed to differentiate ourselves.
It's easier just to use my nickname because he was the original Jack, so...
Yeah. There can only be one Jack, unfortunately.
I'll try to remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to ask just a couple of questions. So the waiting room is now open on Zoom. So if you hit !Zoom in chat, which Nikki has done, the Zoom call's there. So if you climb in, you'll go into the waiting room and then we will drag you in a couple of minutes' time. But Scott, I'll just start off with, because obviously you've left Formula E now, but you're starting some work at Al Kamel, the live timing people. So I just wanted to know how that opportunity came about for you for that.
So Al Kamel was the timing company for Formula E and Extreme E forever. And
Yes.
I just got to know those guys really well. And we always kind of joked about if there was ever an opportunity to work together, we would try to do it. And so when they started the North American company, it kind of made sense to join forces and do that. So and it fit really well with what I kind of left Formula E because of. The office is based in Indianapolis, and my family and my family farm and some other things are very close to Indianapolis. So it kind of worked out really well with some of the stuff I had to take care of.
Lovely, lovely. So I know I'd love to know how the opportunity came about, because obviously you've got a long, illustrious career, which we'll get into over the course of the evening. But I wanted to know, how did the opportunity for you come about to be the Formula E race director?
It was pretty much pure accident, to be honest. So we'll go back to season two. Um, the current race director, I think it was I can't remember who it was now. Anyway, current race director had an issue and couldn't make it, and so they were racing in Long Beach. And I happened to know a number of the folks involved with Formula E because I had been doing some driver categorization committees at the FIA and whatnot. And so I was living in California, Northern California at the time, and one of the guys called me up and was like, "Hey, is there any chance you can come help us this weekend because we're our person short?" And I had been a race director for some Formula Series here in the U.S., and so they called me, and I went and filled in that one race in season two, and then I guess I did a good job because they asked me to come back in season three. And I filled in for the race director about four races that year in season three because he had other commitments or what have you. Um, and and after that, I did it, the three or four times or whatever. Then they asked me to do it full time in season four. Um, it's one of those things where I always tell people, especially people who are asking about how to work in motorsport. I always tell them just say yes.
Yeah.
When somebody asks you something, just say yes, because that's what, it ended up into a, darn near 10-year career that worked out pretty well.
It did work out very well. You spent a lot of time, so you did some race directing in IMSA, you've done some race directing in DTM and Formula E. How are those series different to each other? Is it kind of the same approach to all those, or is it a completely different kettle of fish when you're going from one championship to another?
I always tried to have the same approach to each one. Obviously, the rules are different, and you have to officiate to the rules. But for me, it was always trying to do things the same way, whether it was how you talk to the drivers or how you treat the competitors and how you work with the staff at each different racetrack. For me, it was always about trying to be as consistent as possible. Just having the regulations that come into play, which, whether it was pit stops and pit windows and DTM versus, not having any pit stops in certain places, Formula E for so long, no pit stops, you know. So yeah, just you kind of just adjust your style a little bit to the rule book, but try to keep everything as consistent as possible.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Right, we've got some fans who are already in the waiting room, ready. So Pico, whenever you're ready, you can bring. Who would you like to bring in first?
I'm gonna go with Seb because he was the first one to arrive.
There we go.
So just chronologically, right. So hopefully, I would have given him the notification to come in.
To join.
Yes, I have. He's here.
Hello, Seb. Welcome to the FE bar.
Hello, Jack. Hello, Scott.
Hello. What's your question
Hi,
for
Seb.
Scott?
Oh, my question, is that what you asked?
Yes. What's your
Yeah.
question? Yeah. Sorry if I cut out.
Yes. First of all, though, I do want to say to Scott, honor to meet you. I really miss your countdowns for the FCYs and stuff. I do have to say that I do still miss them.
Thanks.
But anyways, my question was, what was the most stressful moment for you as a race director that we as viewers didn't actually know was going on?
Every race, I don't know. It's a hard one to pick one specific area, I think. You know, I'll be honest, anytime that and my poor friend Merritt this season has had to deal with it a lot, but anytime weather was a problem, that seemed to cause some of the biggest stress. You know, truthfully, let me put it back. I'll tie one in that should be very familiar to everybody. The London the London E-Prix last year, honestly, was an absolute nightmare where it was raining and we were inside and part of the track was dry, part of the track was wet. It was raining hard. It wasn't because of some of the, what most people don't know is that that track at the XL Center has a lot of overhead areas on it, like driving areas and things like that. And so what was happening is the water was actually gathering there and then dumping onto the racetrack. A lot of times weather is one of the biggest stressors because you just don't know what to do. And to be honest, you would call drivers and ask for their feedback, and depending on where they were in the field, you'd get a different answer. If they were leading and they wanted it to stop, they would say, "Oh, it's horrible. We can't drive in this. It's unbelievable." And then you'd talk to someone back in 20th place, and they were like, "Yeah, it's fine. I don't understand why we can't keep going," because they wanted to, gain more positions, and the guy in the front didn't. So, um, that's probably one of the biggest things is that while the commentators are talking about it, the stress that we're dealing with inside race control was always something that was bigger than you could ever imagine.
Can I just throw
Yeah.
one of the races that came to my mind after you said weather, which was I think
Yeah.
was New York season 8, when
Right at the end. Yep.
The
right at
absolute
there was just
downpour.
there was just a
Yeah.
deluge, and Cassidy, who was leading the race at the time, went into the
Yeah.
barriers, and then Edo, and then Stoff,
Yeah,
and
everyone.
and
went
everyone
in.
went in. And I think Frines was one of about 3 cars that made it round back to the pits.
Yeah.
And then you had to make the call there whether or not to call the race or whether we'd actually go back and do it. So can you take us through that one?
Um, yeah, I mean, it just came out of nowhere, honestly. It didn't even show up on the radar. And it was very, very difficult. And probably if I had to do it again, which I don't because I'm not a race director anymore, which is easy to say. Um, but at that time, we had always tried to do full course yellow and then safety car to kind of give everybody a heads up as to what was going on. And I think using that, trying to be consistent and using that procedure kind of bit us in the ass a little bit, to be honest. If we'd have gone safety car right away, then everybody would have kind of recognized it, or maybe even red flag. Truthfully, probably, who knows? But yeah, that one was a tough one. It was tough because we were trying to deal with so many different variables, which it doesn't seem like that, but it was because of the downpour created, a massive amount of water on the circuit all at one time. And then the other thing we were dealing with was that, at that time we only had one type of tire, right? And so the drivers were having a really hard time with being on a single tire. So we were trying to decide what the right thing was to do. And at the end of the day, you talk to everybody. You talk to the people at Formula E and you talk to everyone and try to understand what the repercussions are of the decisions. But at the end of the day, I think you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror the next morning that you made the right decision and you didn't cause anybody any harm, or any issues in safety. So that's kind of the process that we made, and that's what we did.
Yeah, interesting. Seb, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to meet you, Scott.
Thanks, Seb. I appreciate it.
Is that something, as Pika, you can grab the next person. So when you're watching motorsport now and you see like situation Spa in F1, for example, last weekend with the rain, like, do you sit at home thinking, oh, I would have done this or I would have done this, or are you going and you're sympathizing with these kind of decisions that are being made?
Well, number one, I don't watch motorsport. I know that's hard to understand and hard to believe, but I don't typically watch it. I'll be honest, I watch a little bit of NASCAR and that's it. I don't really watch motorsport
Okay.
anymore. But and it's mainly because of of my answer, which is yeah, I get super animated and scream and yell and can't understand why they made the decisions they made or disagree or agree or what have you. So I'm a horrible motorsport fan. You could ask my wife; she doesn't let me do it. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of both, and it's a unique instance. Like, I know Rui very well, and man, I feel sorry for him, for some of the things that he has to deal with and the decisions that they have to make because, at the end of the day, you know, it's never the right one.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their opinion, and everybody thinks you should have done this or should have done that. And again, like it depends on where you are in the field, right? Like Verstappen thought it was the dumbest thing in the world to do what they were doing, and then the guys in the front were like, "Oh yeah, no, this totally makes sense." So
Yeah.
it's an absolute no-win situation. And as I always said, when you're a race director, it doesn't matter what the decision is, everything's your fault.
Yeah.
And so you just have to deal with it. So, but
It's
yeah,
like being a referee, I suppose, in American football or
yeah,
soccer. Like,
yeah,
you never make the right
exactly.
call.
Yeah, you never make the right call.
Okay, perfect. Pico, who have we got in?
It's hard.
Right, Natalie is here. Natalie, can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me? Because I can definitely
Yes.
hear you.
Yeah,
We can hear you,
fantastic.
Natalie. Welcome to the FE Bar.
Yeah, what's your question for Scott?
Hi Scott, how are you?
Hey, Natalie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic.
Obviously, we know you have family, a wife and kids. So my question to you is, how hard was it to balance family life and travelling around the world with Formula E in your race director role?
It was really difficult. I have a really unique situation though that my wife works in motorsport as well. She's the head of the technical support group for Porsche, for all the GT racing here in the US. So if anybody would understand it, it was her. But it was really difficult. I mean, especially traveling from the US to all the places I had to go to. It really made it hard, especially when there was a period of time from whatever 2017 to 2000, call it 2020, I guess, and 21, when I was doing Formula E and Formula One. And so there were a lot of times where I'd have a back-to-back trip. I'd have a Formula E race one week, Formula One race the next week. And the truth is, I'd actually fly home. I'd fly home on Monday, spend the night at home, and then fly back to Europe on Tuesday, just so I could make sure that I had a little bit of family time in between there, as opposed to just sitting around a hotel or sightseeing or something like that. So, um, a lot of compromises you have to take when you're doing that kind of travel. I mean, there were a couple of years where I did 33 international trips a year, which is just stupid. Which is why I quit, and I'm sitting here now talking to you guys, because I just couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, it's a really really hard thing, and I don't know that if my wife didn't work in the business that it would have been as easy as it was. Because I think there's a lot of times where if you don't understand the motorsport business, I think it would be really, really hard to understand the travel and the work schedules.
Yeah. I can imagine it's incredibly hard, even for us. Like going, because Formula E is still quite niche in itself. Like not everybody
Yeah,
goes to every race.
yeah,
So, but even the traveling that we do, like especially it takes its toll. So doing every single one and going from Asia to back to America and back to somewhere else must be
yeah,
incredibly
yeah.
grueling.
And
Yeah.
don't forget, like we're dealing with it right now, right? So it's whatever, it's 12 o'clock here,
Yeah,
it's 8 o'clock in the UK. So
yeah,
if I'm
Yeah.
in the UK, I'm 8 hours off from my family. So it just really complicated everything, made it really hard. But like I said, fortunately, my wife's really understanding. It was my son who wasn't as understanding. He's 7 years old, and
Yeah.
he just couldn't understand, why I always had to go to work, why I always had to leave. So it's all a big reason why I did what I did and took that really hard step of stepping away and becoming, it was one of the most selfish moves I've ever made because it was something that just had to happen because if you can imagine doing something for 10 years,
It's a
it gets
hard,
old.
yeah, and I guess it was a really hard decision for you to make, was it?
It was incredibly hard. I mean, I had intended on stopping at the end of this season anyway, because of those reasons. But then, I had some things happen. My father passed away in December and changed a lot of my life, and so it just caused me to do that. But yeah, it was a very, very hard decision because I really enjoyed it, and I felt like I did a pretty good job, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the drivers, and I enjoyed um, I enjoyed, I would lie if I didn't say I enjoyed, being someone that people, I always found it weird that people knew me, but I didn't know them. But I
Yeah.
also enjoyed it a little bit because it was, it kind of meant that you were kind of in a little bit of a spotlight. So it was a little bit of a
Hmm.
hit to the ego to stop doing it, but it, uh, it was absolutely the right decision, especially after seeing some of the difficulties that Merrick had to deal with during this last season and
Yeah.
some of the stuff. So yeah, it was a great call, and I don't regret anything. But yeah, it was a hard decision for sure.
Perfect. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Jack.
No worries. Thank you for coming on. We'll speak to you soon.
See you later.
Yeah, I've got a question here while Pico grabs the next person. So I've got a question here from Saz who couldn't make it. So she wanted to know, what does a race week look like for you? So when you arrive, so say for a Formula E event, what does it look like? What's your preparations? What do you have to do, and so forth?
Oh, yeah. So, typically for me, it was difficult. It was a little bit more difficult because I had to leave a day earlier than everybody else, right? So I would leave on Tuesday, get to the facility or so on Wednesday, sometime usually mid-afternoon, the way the flights worked out. Um, Truthfully, I would go to the hotel and immediately go to sleep because of being up all night and dealing with that on the plane. And I was one of those people who, in order for me to deal with my jet lag, I literally just slept when I was tired. So I didn't have any kind of a schedule or any kind of a workout or anything like that. And then Thursday you go straight to the track. And the first thing you do at about 9 or 9:30 is go do a track inspection and make sure everything's put together properly. And then kind of work through that and deal with that. Part of my, before I would get there, part of the preparation that I always did was obviously you'd review your notes and look at everything that you had to deal with from the last time. And oftentimes I would watch the previous races broadcast just to kind of give myself a reminder of what the circuit was like and where it was like. And then we always took videos of the circuit as well. So I would always go through and look at the circuit video that I had, to just remind myself of honestly the track construction because in many many cases, right, we were rebuilding the track every year. So I would look at block placements and where curbs were and things like that just to try to remember and understand that, how it all was so we could make it the way it was.
Yeah, perfect. So Pico, who have we got?
Right, Will is here. Good evening, Will. Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Yes, I can definitely hear you.
Lovely,
Can you
lovely
hear
stuff.
me?
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead. What's your
Okay.
question for Scott?
Hey, Will.
Hi, Scott. Hi. Hiya. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Yeah, loved all of your officiating, and I don't envy your job, but I always admired you and thought that you did a fantastic job at it.
Thanks, man. I
Um,
appreciate that a lot.
of course. What my question to you is, and this is a little bit outside your scope as race director, but nonetheless, what changes to the Formula E racing format would you make that you think would be beneficial to improving the package and the audience draw? Longer races, recharge, etc.
Wow, that's a great question. I guess the thing that I would like to see, I don't know how I feel. I'll be honest, I don't know how I feel about I'm not even gonna get the name right because I've been away from it for so long. The pit boost.
Yes.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think it's interesting. It definitely does what it's supposed to do, which is give the feeling that you can do a quick charge with an EV vehicle. Um, but what it does to the race kind of mixes things up a little bit. I think that's good. I like the idea that you have to do it before attack mode. But I always thought that there were things that we could have done with attack mode to make it a little bit more interesting. And maybe even um, because the way the strategy works, right, is most of the time everybody just waits and waits and waits and waits, and then if you can do it, you do it, and if you don't, then it's there's no force majeure with that. It makes it difficult. So for me, I always thought there was a way to maybe make the attack mode somewhat similar to like what you would do with a mandatory pit stop window, of maybe saying you can take attack mode, but you can only take it within the first 5 laps, or the only take it within the last 5 laps, or something like that, or trying to mix it up. Um, that's always something that I always thought, they could have played, we could play with a lot more in terms of that. But for the rest of it, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to judge it. I can say one, a lot of times the one thing that always came up was that we should have um, like uh, instead of having drive-through penalties, we should have like and I'm sorry, I'm not a gamer, so I'm gonna get this probably wrong. Like I think Mario Kart has. So like if something happens to you in Mario Kart, your cart just slows down and you can't keep going. And so it's funny that the number of drivers that always talked about, because we have the ability to do that. You always had the ability to make those changes in the car via the telemetry, but always talked about, well, instead of giving me a drive-through penalty, just reduce my power for a period of time. So at least I get to stay on track and can still keep the race consistent and still keep the races that you're involved with individually going. And so I always thought that was a really cool idea. I wasn't really sure how it was going to work, on some of the street circuits that are so tight and small, but I always thought that was something that could have been really cool and implemented because, Formula E is quite famous for doing things that other racing doesn't do. And so I always thought that would have been something that could have happened. So I hope that answered your question, Will.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And maybe now that there's more permanent circuits, that kind of thing where you could just reduce the power would be, yeah, I'd love to see that, especially, yeah, because you have the wider tracks and everything. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Were you ever involved? Because obviously you're part of the FIA. So when it came to decision making, was that something that you were involved in, or was that something that was just you were completely away from?
I never was involved in the decision making, but they always asked my opinions on things, mainly because I have a pretty unique background in that I was a race engineer before becoming a race director. And so a lot of times, some of the strategy stuff and things like that, Pablo Martino and I would have really deep conversations about how it would work or how it wouldn't work or things like that, just to kind of get the opinion of somebody who was a race engineer but wasn't a current race engineer in Formula E. So, but yeah, I felt like I had a lot of input.
Good, 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 good. Thanks, Will, for your question, by the way. Massively appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Will.
Worries. I want to talk about driver briefings while we get the next person in. Who was some of the drivers that you've had over the years in Formula E that either like made you laugh or took things really seriously in those rooms, and drivers that you just enjoyed chatting to? Like talk me through those driver briefings and what they were kind of like during your time at Formula E.
I think, I said it. It's funny. I said it in Miami that um, the driver briefings was always my favorite part of the weekend, because it was when you got to see each other face to face, and the personalities came out, and you got to have really good conversations about things. And so for me, I felt like everybody had almost always good comments. And I felt like I could joke with almost everybody. The only guy I didn't feel like um, I could joke with that much was Jev. I tried to joke with him, but he never ever. I don't know if
Right,
he never got my jokes, or if he was just too
right.
serious or grumpy or what have
Yeah.
you. But
I'm
yeah,
I'm just gonna butt in for a second because the first season that I did, which was season 8, I reckon I cracked all of the drivers apart from Jev until it was sold that year, and he had just had his baby.
Oh yeah.
And I think baby plus jet lag. I cracked him on day one in Seoul, and that was like
Yeah.
the only time. It was the only time. But yeah, I totally understand where you come from with Jeff.
Yeah, he was always pretty serious. But I mean, most everybody was, I mean, really, I felt like I always had a great relationship with drivers. I had a really, I feel like I had an exceptional relationship with Sam Bird and Antonio. Those guys would always speak very well, and as a race director, you're looking for people, you're looking for people to bounce ideas off and to have conversations with, that get it, right? They get the big picture. They're not just focused on their own team and their own particular championship battle. They understand it for everyone. And so those guys in particular, I mean, hell, almost everybody. I mean, truth be told, almost all of the drivers were really, really useful in their comments. There were guys that, I went through 10 years of driver briefings and they never said two words.
Yeah.
And there were guys in certain meetings that, that were always, you could always count on Lucas Degrassi saying something. He would always have a comment. Towards the end there in the last couple of years, Jack got to be a really good sounding board, as well as Nick. I always got really good comments from Evans and uh, gosh, all the guys, like everybody. Like I said, I mean, it just was really, really great in terms of relationships we had. I mean, it was one of I'll do this because it's kind of weird, but I had this picture made because I really, really cherish it. This was at my this was at my retirement in Miami,
Yeah.
and I got a picture with Sam and Antonio, and I really, really, really cherish that picture because, I wasn't going to do it, and they were like, "No, no, come over here. We need a picture." They said they needed a picture with me, which I thought was hilarious, but it was really, really cool. But yeah, I don't know that. I never felt like the driver briefings were difficult. I always enjoyed them, and I always, and it got to the point where we had the relationship with each other that a lot of the guys would say, "Hey, man, I'm not going to bring this up in the driver briefing, but I want to talk to you about it one on one." And then usually, whatever we talked about, we'd bring it up in the driver's briefing anyway, just out of respect to that driver for not trying to cause a problem. So, yeah, it's the part I miss the most for sure.
Yeah, talk to me about Sandberg quickly before we get, because obviously it might be his last race that he had in London. Obviously an amazing career all the way from season one to now. Like, just talk me through your times. You said you really enjoyed times. Is there any specific instances with Sam that you really enjoyed that you'd like to share with us?
It's funny. There was and I wasn't really public about it at the time, but I dealt with some health issues and I missed a race in Brazil one year. And after the driver briefing, Sam came up to me and was very, very, very emotional and very, very personal. Um, and just, in general, kind of came up to me and was like, "Hey, man, you don't have to tell me what's going on and whatever, but, I just wanted to know that I wanted you to know that we're here and whatever you need. And if there's something, something you need or, you just need somebody to talk to," he's like, "I'm here." And, even when he I can't remember the exact detail, but, I think I even, was it this year? No, last year. Yeah. Last year I missed a race again, and he called me up the Monday after the race and just wanted to check in and make sure everything was okay. And that's pretty cool. That's the kind of guy Sam is. And he yeah, he just always, it was more than a race director driver relationship. It always made me feel, pretty good about the way he was and the way he approached things. So that meant a lot for him to kind of make that call and just check in. That
Yeah,
was cool.
I think
Awesome.
we're gonna miss
Right.
Sam in Formula E. But yeah, who have we got in?
Yeah. Mazrua, can you hear us? Can we hear you? Thanks for waiting. What was your question for Scott?
Uh,
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you. Apologies.
Perfect.
Can you
yeah.
hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can. Thanks for waiting. Come on in.
Okay, no, it's okay. Actually, the app was fiddling with I'm using my phone, and it was fiddling one way or another, and I also got signed out. So apologies for the interruption when you were
No
speaking in the
problem.
breakout room. I didn't notice that the breakout room was like separate.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Scott Elkins, it's an honor. It's a pleasure to be able to speak with you, having seen you for several years. Uh, the question that I wanted to ask you is that what was your first racing series where you worked in any role, engineer or any role or technical member? What was your first racing series? And also, what is your first memory as a race director in your very first week at Formula E? Two questions, basically.
Yeah, so I'll answer that Formula E one first because I think I'll be honest. I wish I knew this. I don't actually remember what my first race was as a race director.
Oh,
Um, I don't remember. It might have been. I don't remember. I have no idea. It was season
Well,
three. I
I'm
can't
gonna
remember. I'm too
try and
old.
I'm gonna try and research it. I'm gonna try.
I can't. I
Like,
can't figure
while
out.
you
I
speak.
can't figure.
I,
It might have been Paris.
I
Paris.
apologize.
It might have been Paris in season three. I can't remember, but um, you know, I
I
don't
apologize if
really.
it was a very difficult question.
No, no, it's not difficult. It's just I'm old and I got a lot of races in my head. Um, I don't know. I don't really know that there was anything that was memorable or concerning or anything like that. I mean, I had been before I'd done Formula E, I had been a race director here in the US, um, in Formula racing. So I had done what we basically are kind of like our Formula Four, Formula Regional before we had Formula Four and Formula Regional here in the US and Formula Three. We had some series here that ran with IndyCar, and so I was the race director of those series. And I had also worked as a steward in IndyCar, so I didn't really feel anything different, really. It was just a different group of people, it wasn't anything like that. And so the first race I was a race director, what I could remember was, the thing that bothered me the most is here in the US, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but here in the US we typically have zones
Yeah,
where the start is because we do the rolling starts.
yeah.
And so even in NASCAR and IndyCar, all of these series, you've got this zone. And my biggest worry about that was that I couldn't really see the zone very well outside of race control because I didn't really have a good camera shot. And so I remember that was something that I was super, super nervous about. And I had a radio and I was calling the starter in the start stand with the green flag directly and telling him when to start the race. And so that was something that I still to this day don't like doing that. I don't know why. It's just one of those deals where I don't like the start zones at all, to be honest. It's as an official, I don't think it's necessary. I think the pole sitter should have the right to do what he needs to do. But so that was probably one of the things my first race that I did as a race director that probably made me the most nervous and confusing. So
Wow.
I hope that answered your question, sir. I'm sorry.
No, it's a pretty good, decent, good answer. Honestly,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And this,
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks for calling in.
yeah. Thanks, Monsieur.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Looking forward to the rest of this session.
Yep. Thank you for calling in. I think his second question, which we'll answer now, was about what I think. I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Champ Car series. Was that your first series that you entered in as motorsport, or was that something else?
Oh no, my first. I mean, I started working in karting.
Oh,
That was my first series. Yeah, I worked in karting, and then as I was working in karting, I pretty much transitioned directly into NASCAR
ah,
from that. And so while I was working in NASCAR, I also worked in IndyCar and Champ Car and at the Formula Atlantic Series and some other stuff like that. So, but yeah, I kind of went karting straight to NASCAR.
there we go. How did you find that early stage in terms of being an engineer and then that engineer transitioning to a race director? Did you ever see that as like a career path, like looking back now, that would be something that you would have done?
Oh gosh, no, not even close. No, I mean, the only reason I became a race director was that I stopped working full time, and I was looking for work where I could fly in and not have a full time job. And the first opportunity that came up was to be a race director, and so that was the contract I took, and that's kind of where and I just kept doing it. So I guess it worked out, but yeah, I never had an intention to be a race director really.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
It just kind of worked out that way.
Who have we got in?
Right, Luty's in. Evening, Luty. Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Hello.
Good evening,
Fantastic.
Jax and
Evening.
Scott.
Evening.
Hey there, how are you?
Very good. I hope you too. I have a bit of a two-parted question. What's like the most scary or intense moment you can remember as a race director? And what happens when there's like a crash in race direction? What are the things that happen behind the scenes?
Okay, thanks for that. So the scariest is an easy one. Absolutely. It was Cape Town, 20, whatever. I don't know what season it was.
9.
2022, yeah, season 9. When in qualifying, I think it was, we had a really, really big shunt, and involving, Wemi and Sam and a couple other guys. That was probably the most scary thing that I've had happen as a race director. It was one of those deals where I didn't I don't think I didn't freeze, but I definitely reacted slower than I should have. And that was that one still, I think you can kind of tell that still
Yeah.
haunts me a little bit on that one, especially because of, thank the Lord that everybody was okay.
Yeah.
And nobody got hurt. But that one was probably the scariest thing that I've ever dealt with, just because of how big the incidents were and how many cars were involved. It was a little bit nerve-wracking. So
Yeah, that looks
I'm
very
sorry, Lottie, what was
intense
your
on TV as well?
what was your second question? I'm sorry, I got wrapped up in the first one.
What happens when such a crash happens? What are like the things that happen behind the scenes to make go well?
So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind whenever there's an incident is, the first instinct is, can we keep going or do we have to stop? What do we have to do to get either medical personnel to the driver, or if the driver's clearly okay, what do we have to do to get the incident cleaned up? And, as you all know, Formula E races end up being about 53 minutes. So the secondary thing that comes up is, all right, how fast can we make all this happen? Because that's the most critical thing, is trying to save all of that. So that really is where it is, how it happened and who's at blame, and are we going to send it to the stewards, and all of that is kind of third and fourth down the line. But the first thing really is just, how quickly can we get somebody there to make sure everybody's okay? And so all of that's going on, and that's happening between myself and the deputy. We've got people. Normally what we would do is the way we would separate the roles with Merrick and I, at least over the last couple of years, was that I would try to manage the big picture, and then the detail of talking to the marshals, getting the equipment there, getting the car picked up, getting it put wherever it needed to go. All of that was kind of on Merrick. And so we'd separate those roles a little bit, where he would manage the recovery. I would manage everything else relative to when we were going to go back, when we were going to go back racing. Was it a safety car? Was it a full course yellow? Who we needed to send right away, because if it was a possible injury, we would send the medical car. And so that's a conversation that I would have with the doctor, who's working in race control as well. So a lot of variables happening. That's kind of a general scope of how things would go. As you can imagine, each incident is different, and so it took you'd have to look at a different way and a different approach depending on the incident. Sometimes where it was as well, if it was in a place that, we were at a permanent circuit and the car was off track, you could make decisions differently than if we were on a street circuit and it was potentially blocking the track or whatever. So that was kind of the process.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you, Lou.
Yeah, thank you too.
I was gonna
Nice evening.
add on, in terms of the scariest moment, the crash that we had in Rome, was that up there as well in terms of, I think someone spun, I can't remember if it was Sam actually again, and then also Sam might have been the one that collided straight into him.
Mercedes cars came together.
That was the race that we stopped racing in Rome. Basically, it was after that crash. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. But that not. I mean, yeah, it was scary. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't one that stands out in my head as something that I would. Probably wasn't a top 3 for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I feel like that's one of the most distinctive crashes that we have in Formula E. I have another fan question here that can't make it tonight, but their name has escaped me. I did have it written down, and it's somehow disappeared. But they wanted to know about. It was on your first season 4 Hong Kong, I think it was, when the lights didn't go out at the start. What was the situation around that and the panic around that?
So yeah, that was memorialized in the Formula E movie.
Yes,
I remember because the scene in the movie we had to recreate, and it was embarrassing trying to do that. But we recreated that scene. Yeah, I mean, the part that was hard about that one was, in a lot of places the start line is remote from where the pit lane is. And that was the case there. And the truth is, at that time, believe it or not, it's hard to believe back then, but I don't know why anybody didn't think about it. But we didn't really have a backup system for the start lights, and I didn't have a flag in the start stand or anything, and so it was we just had to delay it and figure out how to get everything going, which was just simply really not prepared, I guess. It was a complicated one for sure. And that truthfully, that was the thing that in a lot of ways made me stop being the starter.
Yeah.
Because we started realizing that it was more critical to have that decision maker in race control versus having them on the start stand.
Yeah. We should hopefully be joined by Connor soon, but I think we're just waiting for him to join in.
I've sent the thing, Connor. If you're listening, I've hit the invite button. Come on in.
So there is something I want to talk about, and it's actually behind you while we wait. You had yourself down on LinkedIn as listed as a guitar technician. So tell me about your love of guitars.
So had it all my life, always been there. And then so when I kind of quit working full time in 2000, right at the beginning of 2015, and so my father-in-law told me that I needed a hobby, and so I started playing guitar again. And the more I played, the more I got interested in not so different than a race car, the setup and how it played and those types of things. And so I decided to start learning how to repair them, and I did that. And then I spent, I think, 6 weeks in Nashville working with a renowned guitar repair guy to learn how to do it and to train. And then I kind of started my own business, and so I kind of still do that on the side. And I have a little shop out back where I do repairs, and this is a particular brand, Taylor Guitars, and so I've got myself set up as a certified technician with them, and I do warranty repairs for customers. And so it's just kind of a little side gig that I have that I just gives me some enjoyment of working with my hands and using my brain in a different way.
Nice. I think we're joined by Connor. Connor, can you hear us?
Yes. Hello.
Splendid.
Hello, Jack. Hello,
Connor.
Jack. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Connor.
What's your question?
So my question is kind of, I guess, similar to what you were asking just now, or talking about just now about decisions and whatnot. But my question is, what goes into the decision of deciding whether or not to like call a safety car or a full course yellow? Because I always seem to find myself sitting watching the races, watching the TV and thinking, there's a car in the barrier. It hasn't got a wheel off it. It hasn't got a wheel on it anymore. Why have we not called a safety car yet? So that's and it kind of happens. It happens every sort of Formula sports where they kind of leave it 20, 30 seconds before they finally decide.
So the thing about it is, I think, and that's a great question. I mean, it's a really, really good question. It's one of those things where, while it may be obvious if they're missing a wheel, it doesn't mean that they can't still drive the car. And so that's the part that's really, really difficult. And so for us, we implemented many years ago the process of, and sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. In short, there's two things that differentiate a full course yellow from a safety car in Formula E. And a full course yellow is there because you think it's going to be fast. You think it's going to be a piece of debris that a marshal can run out and pick up and grab something. And when you think about it, remember that the full course yellow doesn't pack the cars up. The cars are basically where they are on track. And so you don't really create any kind of gap, right? And when you're doing a recovery or going to pick up the car or pick up some debris or whatever, you typically need a gap. And so that's what the safety car does. So anytime you send equipment on track, or if personnel have to be on track for any period of time, that's typically when you use a safety car. And that allows you to gather all the cars up behind the safety car and then build yourself a gap that you can follow them around. And we would use the safety car speed as a significant tool to help ourselves try to get recoveries done. So, the beautiful part about Formula E, which is beautiful as a race director, is probably not beautiful as a fan, and I know for sure it's not beautiful as a race car driver, is that we can go as slow as 10K because the cars don't overheat. And so we would have Bruno driving the safety car go really, really, really slow to give ourselves more time to get the recovery done and to make that happen. So, but yeah, I think, we would never do a delay. That was part of and to follow back up on where I was going. Sorry for that little sidebar. We got to the point of where we would do a full course yellow first, because we could do it right away. We could do it immediately, within 3 to 5 seconds. And then if we needed a transition into a safety car, once we got the field around and we could get the leader, we would do it that way. And so, I feel like we called it pretty quickly. The only time we didn't was if the car just stopped for no reason. I think if you guys have been watching Formula E for as long as you have, you know that the cars are a little bit finicky, and it takes a little bit of a time for them to do a reset on the car. And so that's why we would give that extra time before we would call something to do that. But normally on an incident, I would tend to kind of disagree with you there. Anytime we had incidents, I think we reacted pretty quickly to those. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah,
even though it was all over the place.
No, it's great.
Formally, I wouldn't expect anything less.
It is crazy. It is great. Connor, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, Scott. Thanks.
Thank you. This is fun. No worries. Anytime.
So while we get the next one in, I just want to talk about one of the questions on my list was Miami, actually. And obviously I know the drivers all did, and that's probably where that photo came from, did the farewell get together and so forth at the end of the race. I don't remember if it was a surprise. I knew about it, but I didn't know if you knew about it. Just talk to me how special it was.
I was told to be in the emotion club. I wasn't told why. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. And the biggest surprise was Alberto Longo dousing me with a bottle of champagne. I didn't see that coming, and I didn't actually care for it. It was awful. It's I don't know how drivers do it at the end of the race. You freaking smell horrible and you're sticky and it's just disgusting. So
was this pre-race or was it after?
It was after.
No, it was after. Yeah, it was definitely after.
Thank God. Thank God.
It was really special. It was really really amazing to have everybody there. and for them to, show up and come by and wish me luck and tell me goodbye. It was a huge deal and completely unexpected, and I didn't think anything like that was going to happen. I went to the driver. It was weird because I went to the driver's briefing, and I kind of fully expected to have some conversations in the driver's briefing with guys, and it was weird because the driver's briefing ended and then everybody left. And I was like, what the hell? What's going on here? And not knowing that celebration was going to happen and the guys were going to come back and there and have a drink with me and talk through it. So it was it was one of those deals where there was a period of time where I was like, well, shit, that's it. That's all that's going to happen. Okay, well, all right, so, but then then it went incredible. So, and I got gosh, I should have brought it with me. They gave me a replica of the trophies that the guys get, like the season championship trophy. And it has, it's got my name and it says race director 2016 to 2025. And it's really cool because each Formula E race, I didn't really pay attention to this, but each Formula E race kind of has its own little logo, its own little shape. And so it had all of the races that I had done on the trophy. And then the back of the trophy, it was framed, and they all the FIA staff and the drivers and everybody signed it for me. So it was really, really special, really cool.
Oh, awesome.
Really, really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, very, very, very emotional weekend for me. Really,
I can imagine.
Really difficult.
I can imagine. Right, Pika, who have we got joining us now?
Right, Ricardo's in the chat.
Hello, guys.
Hello, Ricardo.
Hello, Jack. Hello, Jack. Hello, Scott.
Right.
Hey, Ricardo, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so my question is, since I think everyone has this perspective that you were a stablemate in the race direction of Formula E for such a long time, and I kind of compare your career as race director in Formula E to Charlie Whiting. It has similars, although bless him and let him rest in peace, of course, legend. But yeah, of course, Formula E only has 11 seasons, and you were here since 2016. But I think your career in Formula E can be compared to Charlie Whiting's in a short term, let's say. So, in this matter, do you think now that you are retired, let's say from race direction, do you think now with the actual race director that Formula E could have a Scot Elkins version 2, let's say?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, Marek Pomdaszewski, who's the race director, is, he and I worked together a long, long time, right? Like he and I were together for a long time. He even came and worked with me in Extreme E. He was my deputy in Extreme E as well. So, we spent a lot of time together and we became really, really good friends and, you know, um, truthfully learned a lot from each other. That's kind of how it works when you have kind of a partnership like that. No different than Charlie and Herbie were in Formula One. And so it's, I appreciate all the things you're saying. I don't mean to bypass that. It's very kind of you. And comparing me to Charlie is, even in a relative sense, is something that is just incredible. And I'm grateful for you to say that because he was an incredible friend. And I sat by him for a couple of seasons as his deputy. And I'm sure anybody that's ever heard me do an interview ever in my life knows that I said I always tried to pattern myself after him. So for you to say that makes me feel like I might have 20% succeeded. So but yeah, I mean, I think the guys that are there now know exactly what they're doing. I mean, every race director is different, right? Because every person's different. Everybody has different personalities, and everybody has different ways they approach things. And so, um, they'll. I'll say this in the way that I hope it comes across correctly and not arrogant or anything like that. But there'll never be another me because I'm the only me, and I did things a certain way. Merrick's going to do things his way, and it's very much in good hands, and his approach is very in the room. His approach is very similar to mine, because we learn from each other so much, so differently. Obviously, there are things that are different. The way the drivers' briefings are conducted or what have you, those could be different, because he's a different personality, and a different person, and doesn't, he's Polish, so he doesn't speak English as well as I do. But it's just, but yeah, I think it's time for the Merrick Honda jet ski era, and so that's what needs to be, and that's where it needs to happen, and it's all in really good hands. So
Perfect.
I just talked to him yesterday, actually. I mean, he and I, it feels like we talk after every race still. So it's funny.
Does he ask for your advice on like different scenarios or
Yeah, we
things that
still
happen in the
yeah, we
weekend?
still talk. Yeah, we still talk about a lot of stuff. We don't normally text or talk during the race weekends. There's been a couple of times this year where he's called and kind of, what do you think about this or what do you think about that? But he's a really good friend of mine. I mean, I spend a lot of time with him, so we stay in touch, and we talk about stuff. And so no, it was good, and I hope he has a nice, enjoyable holiday somewhere in the sun, after the season he had.
Yes.
So
Indeed. Ricardo, thank you so much for your question.
Okay, thank you, guys.
No worries.
Thank you, Scott.
thanks, man.
I think we've got time for one more question. I think we've got one more person left in
Right.
the waiting room, which is Chris.
Let's see if
I've...
the thing is, when Chris comes in, I have no
All right,
idea
hold-
if the
okay.
waiting room still exists. So we're gonna find out.
I don't think it will then, so maybe cancel it.
No, I've got him in. He's
Oh,
here.
he's in. Okay, splendid. Chris, I know you had a question for Scott. What is your question?
Hello, first of all, how you doing?
Very good.
Did you ever have to like send in decisions to the stewards to be reviewed, or was that held? Was anyone else doing that, or did you have to sort that?
Yeah, that's what the race director does. Yeah, that's his job, is taking it. And the way we worked in Formula E was we would do kind of a filter, and we'd look at things, and then we'd kind of decide whether they needed to go to the stewards or not. I think everybody does that in Formula One and everywhere. The race director and the deputy, everybody kind of looks at everything before they send it up. But yeah, it was us that would do that. The stewards have the ability in every race series, at least in the FIA, to put something themselves under investigation if they want to. It doesn't have to come from race control. So sometimes they would call down and ask, "Hey, are you going to look at that?" And we'd be like, "Well, we looked at it and we didn't really think it mattered, but you guys can have a look and you let us know." And just kind of have that direct communication with them. So that's a little bit the way that process worked.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Was there any like like team director or personnel in particular who was really pushy, or was everyone equally as pushy?
It's funny because the person you talk to on the intercom, whether it was, the team manager or whoever they designated to talk to, that person was usually asking you questions relative to what the engineers wanted to know. A lot of times they were just a conduit going to race control. And so sometimes you would know whether they were asking you the question directly or sometimes it was coming from somewhere else because you got to know the people and you knew their personalities. But I don't think there wasn't anybody that was incredibly difficult. Again, it was I felt like the relationships with the team managers was something that was really important. Something honestly that Charlie taught me. I learned that from him very clearly, was that the relationship that you have with those people is what's going to make your workplace a little bit better, a little bit happier. And so I always felt like I had a really good relationship with all the team managers. So I don't think anybody was overly difficult. I'm sorry I don't have any dirt to spill on anybody, but it was really kind of a happy place, so it wasn't that difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Right, Chris, I'm going to send you back to the other room, but it might not work, so we'll see.
Well, or if not, he can just stay on mute.
Yeah.
So I want to just before we finish, just a couple of questions. this season the drivers have been talking about stewards and wanting more consistency, and I don't know if that was something that came up in your tenure, or if that's something that
It's not.
you
It's
held.
not this season, Jack. They do it every year. It's not this season. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing new.
How do you deal with those situations then when they say, "Oh, we're not happy with these penalties. It's not consistent enough," and or do you just tell them, "Look, I'm the referee in a sense. Deal with it."
No, I mean it was really interesting because I always felt like, and maybe it was because I had worked as a steward myself. I always felt like it was the race director's job to protect the stewards a little bit, because the stewards are, they're independent. They make decisions, based on the data that they have, and so I always felt like it was really important to kind of protect them somewhat. And so for me, I would always take the messages from the drivers, and I would always go and sit down and have conversations with the stewards about it and talk through things. I mean, I was really lucky because there was a ton of mutual respect for all of the stewards in Formula E and race control. And so we always had the opportunity, it was always very open. And if I didn't, if they would call us and say, hey, drive-through penalty on so-and-so, we had an open enough relationship where I had the ability to go, guys, would you do me a favor and just look at that one more time before we post the penalty? And whenever I asked them to do that, obviously that, meant that I didn't agree with what they were doing. Not that it mattered. I didn't have an opinion. I didn't get to make a choice, but I always kind of wanted us to have each other's backs, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? In terms of how we made decisions. So, but yeah, I mean, I think everybody says that. And I will say, I mean, I think the stewards this year in Formula V have been a little bit more, have been different than what it was in my time.
Yeah.
In my time, we had two dedicated chairmen. And so it was either one guy or the other guy that we had to work with and the drivers had to work with. But I think the chairmen have been quite variable this year. So that may have something to do with it, and maybe losing some of that consistency. If it does exist, I don't know. I haven't really. I've tried desperately to not pay attention, purposefully, to not have an opinion on stuff. So I really haven't I haven't gone back and reviewed incidents or looked at decisions or anything like that. I've really tried to truly step away.
Yeah, I just want to go back to London with Lucas Di Grassi, because I feel like that was an incident where something like that happens during a race and it completely shocks everyone when he goes into the pit lane, tries to do the stop and go and come out in the lead. And obviously, famously, it was just brought up in the chat, so that's why I'm asking it. And they were Alan McNish storming down, I don't know if towards you or towards someone, with data. To say, look, what we did was 100% legal. When something completely shocking like that happens, and you've got Alan McNish banging at your door, how do you approach that?
Well, for us, it wasn't shocking because obviously we knew that something like that could happen. That's why the rule was written that if you drive through the pit lane, you have to stop. And so the rule, we saw that. I think when we first went to Diriyah, that was one of the places where you could clearly see that you could gain an advantage by going through the pit lane. And so there were a couple of places like that. And so, it was a surprise that he did it. It wasn't a surprise that it happened, I guess, if that makes sense. And so at the end of the day, we've got, I say we, the FIA, the scrutineers and the technical people have more data than the teams have. And so you count on that being in your back pocket to help make the decisions that you make. And so we were, sorry, excuse me. We were, give me 1 second. Sorry, that was embarrassing.
No problem.
We were very much aware that the technical guys saw that the car didn't stop. We knew that from the very get-go. They told us immediately. Once we all saw him come in the pit lane and go to his box, we all knew kind of what was happening. So it was a shock to everyone else, I guess, but it wasn't really that big of a shock to us because we knew that it could happen. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But you have to fortunately Alan went to the stewards and not me, because the stewards were the ones that made that decision.
Yeah.
To black flag him, and so he went to them. If he'd have come to me, we would have just had a simple conversation about, hey, you just gather your data. I mean, there's always a process, right?
Yeah.
For disagreeing with what happens. You can either appeal it. Sometimes you can protest it. The ISC has a thing called right of review, where if you feel like a decision has been made improperly, you can go through that process and have the stewards at that meeting review new data. And so there's always a process for somebody to go through and challenge a decision. And so that's always there. And that's for me, that's the conversation you have with somebody like that that's all worked up. You just make sure that they know what their options are. We don't have to tell them that, but in the spirit of being a good sportsman, I think that was something that I always felt like we needed to do.
Yeah.
Give them a heads up as to what their options were.
And then just finally from me, obviously, how much are you going to miss Formula E, and two, Oliver Rowland's become the champion. Like, how happy are you for him? Because obviously he's been in the series for such a long time.
Yeah, no, I am. I sent him a text. The day it happened. I was really, really excited for him because he another one of those guys who he actually comes across as quite quiet, but I've had really great conversations with Ollie, and really, really good conversations. And I know his manager, Derek Warwick, quite well as well, because I worked with him in Formula One as he was a driver steward. And so we had pretty good relationship there. I was super excited, man, super happy for him. Really, really happy. Happy for the Nissan guys, actually, because I got a lot of good close friends on the Nissan teams too. And so, really happy for those guys. That was, to wrap it up that early is a little bit of a bummer because you want to see the championship run deep into the season. But yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing for that. And yeah, I mean, I do miss it. I pay attention. I mean, I'm still on the email list for all the decisions and all the documents and everything. So I haven't removed that yet. My wife was asking me if I was going to do that, and I'm not sure I can let go quite yet. We'll see. But yeah, I miss it a lot, but I have to balance how much I miss it and the people that I worked with for so long and the relationships that I had there with the other side of my life, which is my personal life, And so, I was sitting poolside with some friends, having a barbecue this weekend on Sunday, and while the race was going on, and that was okay with me. I liked that, and my wife and son really liked it. So that's the part that is what you balance, and you balance that with being 8 hours away from home, working. So
I'm just seeing the time difference in my head. Are barbecues at 9 a.m. traditional in California, or is that a you thing?
It was a pool party, so you do whatever. You show up.
Fair enough.
Pico, anything
I didn't say I was drinking at 9 a.m. Pico. I said I was sitting poolside. Yeah. Come on, man.
No, I can. I absolutely condone drinking at 9 a.m. It's a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it is that I've worked in motorsport for 26, 27 years, and so it's not just the last 10. It's I worked on a NASCAR team for 5 years, guys. I mean, I had 36 races for 5 years. And so it's just kind of time to step back. And I'm old, but I'm not that old to where I can still enjoy life a little bit, So
that's the most important thing. You want to enjoy life. Because that's the whole point, right? Life is worth living, and you've got to
you only get one, fellas. You only get one.
Get one.
Yep. So
Scott, it's been an absolute privilege having you on.
Thank you. It's been really fun. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I really hope you've enjoyed the format and having the fans come on, because obviously normally it would be us and then be listening, but we really, really want the fans to be the ones driving the questions and driving the engagement. So I really hope you enjoyed it.
No, it's amazing, and it's funny. I was thinking about it. If you have a minute for one last little anecdote, but like when the first person came on, and I can't remember her name. I apologize for that. But when she said she missed my voice, it was funny because over the course of 10 years, I met probably 6 or 7 people when I was in an airport or on an airplane, and I was either talking on the phone or talking to someone next to me, and they came up to me and said they recognized my voice from Formula E. They didn't know what I looked like, but they recognized my voice. And I met new people through that. And I just thought that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen happen in my life was that I recognize your voice. And I was like, oh, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is so weird. But it was really cool. Really, really cool. So no, thank you guys. It's it's really fun. Thank you.
But
really good to sit here and reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, it did, and I think it's also cool. Like when you got compared to Charlie Whiting and so forth. I feel like even for me, just listening to that, like it just shows.
My gosh.
It just shows how much you're loved within the Formula E community, and even though you were calling the decisions, but how much you managed to, in terms of the fans, you seem to galvanize them. You seem to you had them at the palm of your hand in a sense.
Now you're making me regret my decision.
We love you, Scott. We love you.
Thanks for saying that, man. I appreciate it. That's really cool.
So,
really cool. Thank you for that. It's a big deal.
Enjoy your retirement from motor racing, and we wish you all the best.
Great.
For the future.
Thank you. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks
you. Everyone. Have a good night.
Right, we're gonna just go on to a quick break, and then we'll be back in a moment. So don't go anywhere. fingers crossed. We should be back. Oh, we're not back. Okay, the camera panel doesn't work.
No.
It's all
No.
changed. It's all
Okay.
broken. It's full broken. I don't know how one overlay change can change on all three.
I mean,
well.
as long as they can still hear us, then
They
I
can
think that's
still
a good
hear us.
thing.
But
Yeah.
all we came back to was wrap up the show. I don't know what's happened here.
Yeah.
I don't know why this has happened. but
Apparently
we
Nick Golding's here as well.
it's
which
the
is
wrong
interesting.
overlay because this is the old overlay that we've used. But yeah,
Lovely. Yeah.
we just came back. I couldn't see any of this. All I could do now. Give us 2 seconds and I'll sort it.
Yeah. No. What was with the...
We are back.
What are you going for? You're going for Jackie?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, mate, because we're live on air.
No, okay. Jack was talking about transitioning, so
I transitioned. I could transition.
Trans rights. Trans rights. Let's go.
Managed to fix. Don't know why it did what it did, but it did. But we're back. We just wanted to say before we let you guys go, what an amazing show that was, and you know, we had an absolute great time. We hope you had a great time as well. Speaking to Scott, he was absolutely brilliant, and we have to just thank you guys because again, we can't do this show without you. So, you know, it was brilliant. Any last words, Pico?
I mean, yeah, I just want to echo what you said. I mean, like, what a class guy. What a brilliant chat. Thanks to everyone who came on. Yeah. We're going to be off for a bit now, aren't we? I mean,
we're going to the FE bar is going to continue in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I don't think it won't be as constant. We'll be back some point in August, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we'll be back in August. We're going to do an end of season quiz.
Point. Ah.
So we're going to do an end.
I'm finding this out now.
Yeah.
So I'm finding this out with everyone else.
The last time that you did that, I found out on the same. So the aim is to do an end of season quiz. So because obviously we paid for the quiz thing. So it makes sense to do a quiz.
Yeah,
obviously,
so he wants to do another one. I mean, I'm putting my Zoom workplace on pause after this show.
Yep, that's fine. I will try and get some more guests lined up in the off season, but obviously it won't be till September, October time because August everyone's going to be on holiday, and rightly so.
Yeah.
So there has been 1 or 2 pipelines, but it won't be again till September, October. So we'll probably have to talk about in terms of special guests coming on. But we do want to do some the quiz, and we are going to do some potential if say the day we find out the cost has moved, we might do a FE bar around that time, or whatever the Costas decision is, or who goes to Jaguar.
Yeah,
we'll
it'll
do
it'll
a
all
show.
be news related.
It'll all be news related shows that we can react to in the off season. We'll do one in October
And
for the
you'll probably get
calendar.
2 weeks notice. You'll probably get
not even 2 weeks notice. It might be a day.
No,
notice.
I meant to say 2 hours notice.
Yeah, it might
I don't
even
know why
be.
I said 2 weeks
might
notice.
be. It might be really short. Right, this is broke. We're gonna go live.
I'm getting my 2 weeks notice. I'm being cut right now.
And so forth. So we're definitely looking at. We obviously want to keep the FE bar ticking. We need to keep it ticking as well, just for Formula
you need watch hours.
Well, yeah,
you need watch hours.
Yeah, just for Formula E's own goals, we need to keep it ticking over. We don't want to go. We can't afford to go silent between now and testing, so we want to keep it ticking over.
No.
So all we can ask basically for you lot is obviously keep liking and subscribing our content, our videos. Keep watching. We should have plenty of more content still from London still to come. And obviously videos from this FE bar.
Yeah, that's the point. We've still got stuff to come from London.
We've still got stuff to come.
If you haven't watched it already, go back and watch the pundits predictions. Yeah, so it's me, Nick Golding from Racing News 365, Jack Smith from Motorsport Week, Don Wild from Racer, and Toby Verts from eFormula D. We all put some predictions in an envelope in Madrid, and we opened them up in London, and I got it all on camera, and you can go and watch that now. It's on the channel. So when we go off air, go and give that a watch, like whatever you want to do with it.
Yep.
Because I'm honestly like I'm like, even though that it's sort of like that was like my little
project
baby, yeah. And Ed shout out to him. He's done a mega job as well with the editing. I've watched that about 5 times.
Oh, that's good.
Just because I'm quite proud of it. I'm quite proud of it.
It is a good video. It is a good video. But hopefully we've got a couple more good videos coming your way too. So yeah, just keep watching, keep supporting the channel the best way you can. If you want...
Hang on, whoa. Sorry, Nicky. What do you mean me and Nick cheated? I don't think I cheated. Nick, I think shouldn't have got that point. But
because that was a prediction we knew was going to happen.
Yeah, because we all knew that the calendar clash was going to happen.
So,
which one did I cheat on?
I don't know.
Because I don't. If it's the Dan Tickton one, he got 3 points in pole position. He got 3 points in the trophy, so it's an official pole position.
Okay, we'll see what he says. We'll see. That's
just
steward's inquiry. We'll get Scott back.
Yeah.
We'll get Scott back to fix that one. Let's see what he says. But no, obviously it's been brilliant. We've had a really good year. I
think this year's been great.
It's been a really good. It's a really solid year.
I think it's like all round. Like, and yeah, I only sort of like stuck my face in for the last 5 minutes in London, but yeah.
But yeah, I think we've had a good year. Yeah, that's not cheating.
The thing is, thank you, Lucy, but also it's Lucy, so Tickton fan. So.
But yeah, so that's all we can say. So we're hoping. I've known there was like news stories about Robin Friends at the moment, maybe up in the air seat about Envision, but I still think that's a lot of hearsay at the moment. Although there was direct quotes from Robin, but no one's really confirming what they're doing. But I have a feeling a lot of drivers know what they're doing. It's just the announcements aren't coming anytime soon. So I think from what I saw and what I heard over the London E-Prix is that
everyone's putting their feet up for a bit.
The drivers kind of know what they're doing, but they're not. They're being very political with what they're saying at the moment to the press, which is which is fine. But yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you again to everyone who came on. We can't do these types of shows without you, so you guys are absolutely amazing, and we love you for it.
Yeah, just before we finish, I thought I'd just throw this out to you because I don't think we did it on Monday night. What's been your highlight of the season, Jack?
What's been my highlight of the season? I'll be political and say it was really nice having the whole team in London. That was cool.
Yeah, no, that was great.
That was pretty cool. I think my highlight has to be the fact that I went to Miami. And I ticked off a new race.
Yeah.
Like the Miami race in itself wasn't the greatest, but the fact that that was in my 10, 11 years of doing this series, that was my first long haul Formula E race.
Was it really?
That was my first long haul. I've only done ever
Wow.
only ever done the European.
I didn't
ones.
know that.
That was my first ever long haul race.
I thought you must have done like at least one down the
No.
years or something like that.
Well, one, I didn't have the money. Two, it collided with my main job, and this one didn't.
Yeah.
And my aim is to go to Japan next year because again, it doesn't collide. So
Yeah, it didn't collide.
Doesn't collide, and
Yeah.
so it's a bit like pre-season testing this year. So I might be going to pre-season testing this year because it's again, it doesn't collide.
We'll get the Airbnb gang back together.
Yeah, we'll get the Airbnb, but unfortunately, I've already looked. It can't be the same Airbnb because it's already like booked out or not in use over those times. But we'll find a new one.
That's fine. We'll get a new one.
We'll find a new one. So yeah.
I'll drive as always. So yeah,
that's pretty much it. We'll decide a date for the end of season quiz. So that will be the next FE bar unless something drastic happens. But I think that's pretty much it. 9:30. I think it's a good time to end the show.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the whole season and so forth. And hopefully we can create some more memories and keep growing together as a community, because that has also been a big highlight, is how this community has grown and how strong it is. I do feel like we have a very strong community on this page and on this website. So keep reading everything that we're doing, keep watching everything that we're doing, and we will see you in season 12, but we will see you before the start of season 12. So don't panic, we ain't going anywhere. You won't lose your favourite show. And that's it from us.
Your favourite show, reevaluate your priorities.
Some people, Anyway, right, it's good night from us. We'll see you soon. Ciao.